Okay. Hey everyone, it's Nico, or Sir Pork's Bottom here. Today we're going to be talking about Silent Hill 2, or Return to Silent Hill the movie. I was a little upset, frustrated with this film. I just got back from the theater just an hour ago, and I'm trying to put my thoughts together. I had sort of a rambling 30-minute video recorded before this, and I decided to make it a little bit more concise. Spoiler free review is really bad. Yeah, I'm gonna give it like a 1 out of 10 being generous. I'm not a huge fan of the movie. Spoiler free, I think very basic surface level stuff are absolutely spoiler free because I'm a guy who thinks trailers are spoilers, so I'm gonna try to replicate that here. I would say my first recommendation is don't watch the movie. My second recommendation is watch the movie drunk. My third recommendation is watch the movie high, and my fourth recommendation is to watch this movie as a fantasy football punishment. I don't think there's a reason you should watch this movie in any capacity, and definitely not like alone. So I watched this movie alone because people that I know are much smarter than me. When I go into this movie, the good things about the movie are very few, so I'll just go over them now. I like the monster designs. I think they're pretty good. I like the music, but that's kind of a gimme because they're just using the Silent Hill 2 soundtrack for most of it, which is good. I actually think it's a good thing. And my third thing is I kind of like some of the very minor changes that they made. And that's where I'll stop. The bad things, literally everything else. I think every word spoken by every character should have been erased and redone. I think this was a one-time script job. I think this was for a lot of the actors, this was the first time they've ever read a line on a camera, and you could tell. I don't know why the director didn't say, "Hey, give me one more take on that, please." We are where we are. I think it. I mean, it was an abysmal watch. I actually look. I'm gonna stop there because I can't say anything else without spoiling the movie in just a huge way. So let me pull this up. Okay. So when talking about Silent Hill, this movie, this is my spoiler section, by the way. So if you, for some reason, want to go out to the theaters and watch this movie, maybe it's for fun, like I said, for one of the above versions of watching this movie, you can click off the video now. I think the easiest way to do this is just going to go straight through the plot. And I'm just going to sort of walk through the movie as it goes, and you're just going to have to take my word for it. So the movie starts, and this was a big thing for me. How is the movie going to start? This is something I asked myself a lot when this movie was teased, when the trailer started coming out. I wanted to know how the movie was going to start because there was this weird thing in the trailers where we were seeing flashbacks of Mary and James together in Silent Hill before Silent Hill. And I was very interested where the movie was going to start because I think it is integral to the game that the movie starts. The car's parked. He's in the bathroom. Sets the scene, sets the mood, sets the atmosphere. This movie doesn't start like that. Of course. This movie starts with him driving on a sunny day through the winding roads around Silent Hill. And he's making a turn, and a big truck comes out of the corner of his eye. James swerves away, misses him, hits a pile of suitcases on the side of the road, and parks the car. He parks the car at the bathroom where Silent Hill 2 begins. And the suitcases that he hit were actually Mary's suitcases, and that's how they met. So he met her right outside of Silent Hill, hit her suitcases, broke her suitcases so she couldn't get on the bus, because she was waiting for a bus, by the way. Waiting for the bus, and so the bus, she's like, screw it, go ahead, bus, whatever. All my suitcases are broken. It's going to take me, I guess it's going to be too hard to travel with a broken suitcase, so forget it. And so James and her start talking. Conversation goes well enough. She makes some, like, funny little mentions, like, hey, like, this is Silent Hill, this is There's a little trail down there. It'll lead you down to Silent Hill. You know, that's cool, I guess. And then it just starts pouring rain. You know, these clouds are rolling in. She's like, oh, it's one of Silent Hill's summer storms. This happens sometimes. James looks down, and then she's like a drowned figure. She's underwater. She's dead. Mary's just like dead. And then he wakes up. He sort of, you know, jumps out of his stupor. He's in a bar now. You know, the bar's popping. It's like a nightclub. All this music's playing, and James is very, very deep, drinking a lot of beers. You know, the bartender comes over, cuts him off, and then he gets himself kicked out of the club. When he gets kicked out of the club, he gets a call from M, I think was her actual name. I don't know if her name was ever mentioned in the movie. And I have a list of the cast here, and I don't see her. I don't know if that's because the movie came out today or what, but she has no name besides M. M is the contact in James's phone. She's a therapist. I have a lot of problems with this already. One, James having a therapist is actually fine. I don't mind this too much. But this is very explicitly because of the conversation that he has with this therapist, who's sort of seen through this weird fractal lens. Like, you see, like, bits and pieces. Everyone else looks like she's looking through, like you're looking at her through a broken mirror, you know, and you're seeing chunks of her face, like, all over the place. So you can't really look at her. You don't really know what she looks like at this scene, but whatever. James, like, this is taking place after Mary died. He has a therapist to get over the death of Mary. We're assuming, right, because that's what she says, like, oh, you got to let her go. We're assuming she's talking about Mary, and by she, I mean the therapist. James is like, yeah, whatever. So the therapist goes, hey, tomorrow, you know, be here for your session. And he's like, okay. So he starts walking back home. He gets home. And this was alluded to a little bit earlier in the movie when he was driving, but he has all this art supplies in his back seat. But when he gets to his apartment, there's paintings all over the wall. And there's a big painting, like a huge painting, right in the center of his room. And he sits down in this little cuck chair and looks at it. And it's just Mary's dead face, like the same face that we saw in that vision. And he sort of like gets his headache. He's like seeing things that's flashing on the screen. You can't really tell. And he tries to drink out of this vodka bottle. There's nothing in it, so he throws it. And where it rolls is the letter. The letter in Silent Hill 2 that, starts the game, essentially. And it's totally wrong. It's like 4 sentences long, saying something. It's like, James, I know it's been so long, but please come back to Silent Hill. Something's happened. I'm begging you. Like, yeah, that's exactly actually the heart-to-heart that I felt in the original letter as well. Let's take a look at that right now. Yeah, I mean, it's practically the same thing. So when you change, so you're changing something pretty big there, Mr. Gons. But I can look past it. The letter is important. It doesn't have to be word for word. I wish it was, because I think it does a pretty good job. But the reason it isn't, in my opinion, is because I don't think Mary's the same character in this movie, and I'll get into that. So he does return to Silent Hill, as the title of the movie says. And he returns, he's parked in the same spot. It's a rainy day. He falls asleep, and then it's just foggy, quote unquote. He walks in the bathroom. They do the same opening sequence from the video game is in this bathroom. So I was like, okay, you pulled me back in, Mr. Christoph Gans. You've pulled me back in, right? You kind of lost me with all this movie original stuff, but, I feel like there's certain check boxes that you're going to have to get when you're making a movie, with a bunch of nobodies. Like, I'm sorry, but you're going to have an intro scene and sort of a hook at the start to make you care about James, because everything has to get explained to you when you're making a movie nowadays. So, okay, but you're pulling me back in. He looks over Silent Hill. It's foggy. Okay, good. Then he starts walking through the wooded trail in Silent Hill. The opening scene, one of the most famous scenes in gaming. It's kind of cut up a little bit. I feel like he could have stuck around, but it's fine. It's sort of montagey in nature when he's walking through the woods, so it's okay. I mean, I'm not gonna bang him for it, but he has this little narration too when he's walking around. He's like, "They're all asking me to get over you, but how could I get over you when you're just calling me back?" Because of the letter, I guess. And okay, sure, whatever. It's fine. He pulls up to the graveyard. Man. So he pulls up to the graveyard and meets Angela. Angela, right? That character, who's very important in this movie, who's moving sandbags from one end of the graveyard to the other of the graveyard. And I know, like, I live in Michigan, so we're used to this kind of thing when the lakes are rising. You put sandbags on the water's edge to stop flooding, to assist so your house doesn't get flooded. You just put a bunch of sandbags down if it's like light, because the lakes, raise 15 feet sometimes. So like you just kind of stack up sandbags to stop the water from getting through. That's what they're doing here. Angela is moving sandbags to the under the water. She's explaining to James, like, hey, like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm looking for someone at Silent Hill. And she's like, well, you won't find him. Silent Hill got flooded, I guess. So, it got the water treatment plant. So now there's no clean water. When there's no clean water, there's nobody around. And James is like, yeah, all right, hey, good luck with that. And then leaves. Which I enjoy that interaction from James. I think that's very to character with James. But he goes, he leaves, walks into Silent Hill. They kind of skip over everything. There's no, like, junkyard scene or nothing. The Roadrunner. So he just walks into Silent Hill. He's walking around Silent Hill. One of the cool things here is when James is walking through Silent Hill, I guess I did skip over this part with Angela, actually. Apparently it's ash. It's not fog. Apparently there was forest fires, and then when the rains came in, it like put out the fires, so now you just got all this ash blown in from the mountains. And so when James is, because it's ash and not fog, when James is walking through Silent Hill, he has like these white footprints behind him, which is kind of neat. I'm assuming it was intentional because of the game's loading screens, are obviously, they're like little white footsteps. So that's, okay, cool. I'll give him a pass on that one. But James is walking through Silent Hill, kind of rubbing the windows, looking around, saying like, what the hell's going on here? What could have possibly happened, even though there's like 7 inches of ash just covered in this town right now. And someone just explained to me that there's no clean water. So yeah, why is nobody here? So he's walking through Silent Hill, and he hears the radio, which is, okay, yeah, cool. So he runs through an alleyway. Everything up to this point is actually pretty good, besides like the opening scenes, but they pulled me back at this point. So he's walking through, sees the radio in the little, under that little mini bridge in the original game, and he's talking to, and he's not actually talking to anybody. He goes up to the radio, it's talking, saying like, warning, all the static and stuff. Then this guy jumps out, jump scare. You have to have a jump scare in this movie. There's a couple, actually. And he's like, oh, they're coming back. They'll always come back. Something like that. That's the only line this guy has. Then, James is like, oh, okay, whatever, dude. Yeah, like, cool. And he walks away. He goes to this club. This club, you gotta, oh, man, dude. Oh, this is just so tough. He goes to this club, and there's a flashback. There's actually the second flashback we got. There was actually a flashback on his way into Silent Hill. When I said they skipped over the Roadrunner and everything, he walks by a church, and he has this flashback at the church of seeing him and Mary just hanging out in the field, and her nose is bleeding, which I'm assuming is, that's the best foreshadowing they could get. So he walks into this club, though, and gets another flashback already. Like, this is like 2 minutes later. And it's a bunch of people hanging out in this club called like Heaven's Paradise or something like that. And he's walking in with Mary, and Mary introduces him to all these people. He said, hey, guys, this is James. He's the guy that I was talking about. And they're like, oh, my gosh, you're real, yada, yada, yada. And they go, oh, Mary, I'm so happy for you. Like, your father would be so proud. And James asks, oh, so you guys all met her father? Because obviously James hasn't met her father at this point. They've probably only been together a very short time. And all these random people who aren't named go, oh, no, her father. Just saying the name wouldn't do him justice. He built Silent Hill. He's the greatest thing to ever happen to us. Cool. And then that's foreshadowing, I guess. And then the scene kind of cuts. He hears this guy screaming. He runs back. The radio's going nuts. The guy's like melted now. This homeless dude under the bridge is now melted. And he grabs the radio because the radio starts really freaking out. And then there's just like a ton of the body bag monsters just everywhere. And so, James is looking around. This air siren goes off, and it goes from like the normal Silent Hill to the corrupted Silent Hill. And everybody starts chasing him. I have a huge problem with this scene because like, how do I put this? The CGI in this scene is terrible. Like, it's actually horrible. The monsters look like they're out of like they look like Dwayne The Rock Johnson in The Mummy or whatever movie that was. Actually, it probably wasn't The Mummy, but Dwayne The Rock, they actually look that bad. Like, it looks like early 2000s CGI. It's really bad. There's no mocap or anything. I can tell that this was done in Blender. And James starts running away, obviously, and he runs. Really, he just kind of runs. Like, there's some scenes with like the bugs from the game are sort of chasing him too. He ends up in an apartment building though, and he's in this apartment building. He's walking up the apartment building. There's another Mary jump scare. And then, like, he sees, like, a figure fade into the darkness. And he chases after it. And this is actually the apartment complex where him and Mary lived. I guess. That's news to me. But him and Mary lived in this apartment complex at one point in their relationship. And actually, I think for the whole relationship, whatever. Not very important. So he's walking through this apartment, going up the stairs, and then he gets a flashback. Another flashback of him kissing Mary. And then the flashback ends, and he's still walking up the staircase. He sort of like walks outside, then walks up like the fire escape stairs. And he sees the TV with videotapes in the room. This is super important because, like, I think we're probably like 20 minutes, 30 minutes into the movie at this point. And I'm looking, obviously I played the games. I'm looking at the scene and I'm like, oh my God, like, there's videotapes and a TV with static. I mean, if this isn't the scene of the game, the titular Silent Hill 2 scene, the one that everybody talks about, the reason the game is good. No, I shouldn't say the reason the game is good, but the reason the game is great. Top 5 all-time games, probably the best horror game of all time. Like, this is it. The funny thing is, he walks up to this TV, has some freak panic attack, starts seeing just stuff. You can't really tell because it's flashing so much again. And then he walks outside, takes a breather, walks back in. When he walks back in, there's moths covering this mannequin, and this mannequin is wearing a dress that Mary wore at some point. And the way it's framed is he has like this flashback, and it's the first like real like quick James flashback that we can see, where he's walking out the door and Mary's in this like blue flowery dress. And it's very quick, but he sees it, and then he looks up, and there's like this lit little, almost like a shrine in the back. Goes up to the shrine, and has another flashback. But this flashback is him getting home. Like, he walks into his apartment building. He's like, hey, Mary, where you at? I'm sorry, not Mary. Hey, Mare, where you? Mare, I guess is the nickname. Hey, where you at? Walks through, the apartment building. Hears a bunch of whispering from behind a closed door, like a half-open door. And he leans in, trying to hear what the fuck is going on. And they're talking about, like, this is great for you, Mary. We'll help you, anything you need. And it's those same people from the club. There's like 20 people in this room. In his apartment building. He opens the door. He's like, what the hell's going on? And they're like, oh, and there he is, the man of the house. And then they all just, like, leave without saying a word to him. And he looks at Mary, and he's like, what the hell is this? Like, what is going on? And she's like, oh, yeah, they just stopped by. He's like, 20 people just stopped by. Like, he's actually, like, genuinely, understandably curious what the hell is happening. He's probably only been here for a couple of months. It looks like they just moved in. Since that was the last flashback we saw was them moving in, to this apartment building. He goes, okay, yeah, I mean, like, whatever, I guess. Like, those are, like, they're fucking freaks, but whatever. Yeah, so he actually says, like, they're freaks. They're weird. And then she's like, but they're my family. They picked me up after my father died. And so James was like, yeah, I mean, okay. Like, all right, I concede. Which, that's definitely James from the video games, by the way. Just a super conscientious guy. Oh, man. So that whole scene takes place, and it actually turns out that this shrine is her dad. Like, it's a shrine for her father. And there's, like, these weird, like, childish, like almost like, I don't want to say statues, because that's not really the case here. But these childish, like figures, maybe. It's really hard to explain. I'll put up a picture of what they kind of look like. And then there's, like a paper mache mask of the dad, and that really got me. And I'm not really sure why, but that really got me. I don't like this idea that her dad, like, why, like, I don't like the idea of, and I hate to say this, of characterizing Mary like that. I don't mind if you put her in the movie and put her in the back, like the flashbacks, so we'll care more when she dies. But why make her some weird member of the cult? Like, obviously the cults are important in Silent Hill 1 and 3. I mean, it was barely talked about in Silent Hill 2, and you really had to, like, not dig for it, but you had to look at, like, the sort of the extracurricular material, like the paintings in the Silent Hill History Museum, to really even understand that a cult was even, like, a part of Silent Hill. If you just played Silent Hill 2. Obviously in Silent Hill 1 and 3, it's in your face, but not really Silent Hill 2. Not really. Anyways, let's keep moving on. James starts walking through the apartment complex, and he sees Eddie throwing up in a toilet, saying, "Oh, everybody's sick. Who are you?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm James." And Eddie goes, "Oh, James, what do you do?" "Oh, I'm a painter." "Oh, do I know you?" Probably not." That's their whole conversation. I'm not even, like, ad-libbing that. Like, that's pretty much how it went, actually. Word for word, bar for bar. So, Eddie and James hear this baby crying. So they go to investigate the crying baby. And it leads them down the hallway to where you meet Pyramid Head in the original Silent Hill 2 game, right behind the bars. There's no Pyramid Head yet, but it's a bars. Very clearly, it's supposed to be the bars in the hospital, or in the hospital, in the hallway. But the little crying baby is actually coming from a box on the other side of the bars where Laura's there. And Laura is sitting there with a baby, I guess. And, James is like, "Hey, Laura, come on, get through. I think you can fit through these bars. Come on, let's get you out of here." And then he starts freaking out. And Eddie's like, "We gotta go, James. We gotta get out of here, James." And James is obviously trying to save Laura. Then James starts having, like, another freak panic attack. And we start seeing, it's Pyramid Head. We're seeing, the sword is dragging on the tiles. We're hearing him, the heavy breathing. Then he sort of goes around the corner. Like, we see his back, and he goes around the corner. And Eddie says my favorite line in the whole movie. "You woke him up." So, wow. It's Pyramid Head. He tries to reach through the bars, grab nothing, I guess. I don't know. Eddie, or, James is on the floor at this point, so whatever. Laura's back hiding in the box at this point, obviously, since Pyramid Head arrived. And James gets up, starts running away. And Pyramid Head breaks through the iron bars and starts chasing James down the hallway. And this is where it gets really weird. So James is running down the hallway and sees something dead on the ground. And he goes, Mary? And like this is like a naked thing. Its skin is gray. You can see its ribs. And he goes, Mary? The thing turns around, its head falls off, rolls over to James. And then it like grows 9 limbs and starts crawling after him like a spider. So James starts running away. And it's another one of those really bad CGI scenes. Because then it cuts back to the spider monster for some reason. And it sort of picks up the head that fell on the ground and puts it back on. And it actually looks like it was supposed to be. And like one of those, like I said, those early 2000s, but like a 3D movie this time. Because it goes right in the screen. It's not even scary. Like it's so obviously CGI and so obviously fake that it's not even scary. It's almost funny. But James is running away. He runs into the closet. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to do the closet scene. Let's go. You know? So he runs into the closet. And he's sitting there, the spider monster creature, whatever is looking for him. And while he's in the closet, the spider creature walks into the door, is looking around, and then Pyramid Head follows right behind it. And Pyramid Head just sort of beats the shit out of this thing on the table with its bare hands. Like it doesn't do... I think the scene in the original Silent Hill 2 is much better done for this. I think it's still the best version of it in the original one. The remake was okay. I think the original one really captured the visage almost of Pyramid Head a lot better, though. Moving on. So you know, James watches this whole thing go down. He's like, oh my God, like this Pyramid Head thing is crazy strong. And then he sort of hides in the back corner of the closet. Pyramid Head breaks through the closet, looks at James, looks him like right in his face. And James notices that there's a crack in the pyramid. And I'm not even kidding you. I hate this when it comes to Pyramid Head, because I think the original design of Pyramid Head is really good. I think the idea behind Pyramid Head was really good. But James looks into the crack of this Pyramid Head and sees very clearly his own eyes. And I don't think they try to hide this. They get a little bit more on the nose later in the movie. But this is really what happened. Then the air siren goes off again. Everything goes back to normal Silent Hill. Pyramid Head is gone. James wakes up, gets out of the closet, and starts walking through Silent Hill again. And as he sees Laura right outside. And he's like, hey, Laura, how did you get up there? And she's like, oh, you know, they're scary monsters. And then he's like, what's that you got in your hand? And she's like, oh, this? Well, Mary gave it to me. And so James starts to, you know, sort of grill this girl interviewer on, how do you know Mary? Where'd you get this thing from? Let me see it. And she won't. And then she runs away. And as she's running away, she goes to the park. And in the park, James meets Maria. I don't mind Maria too much yet, but I'll get into that. So he meets with Maria. They talk about getting him out of Silent Hill, and, you know, James mentions to her, like, I'm looking for my girlfriend. I don't know how long it's been since I've seen her. I don't even know if she's here or where she is. But I got to go to Brookhaven Hospital, because that's where she's going to be. Like, he just knows that's where she's going to be, which is fine. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, he might have seen, like, a letter on his way out the door. After the Pyramid Head scene in the closet, whereas like Brookhaven Hospital, Mary was admitted to Brookhaven Hospital. So he's going to Brookhaven Hospital, and Maria's like, shit, I'll tag along. Important to note, Maria's not actually named in this scene. Obviously, I know who Maria is, but like she's not actually named in this scene yet, and it isn't even brought up that she looks like Mary. You can tell visually, obviously, it's the same actress, but it isn't explicitly stated by James, man, you look like Mary, which I think is an important part of Maria's whole characterization. I'm pretty sure that's like the purpose of her character, is that she's supposed to be this, James's, I guess, idyllic version of Mary. You know, not sick, healthy, very provocative. Moving on, though. You know, I do think it's kind of weird that they didn't mention that, but moving on. James and Maria get into the hospital, and they start looking around for any information they can find on Mary. James finds a file with Mary, says, oh, Mary's in toxicology. which does, yeah, I mean, it sort of becomes important, I guess. So James starts looking around the hospital. They're looking for any information they can find on Mary still, because he knows her in toxicology, but he doesn't know where that wing is in the hospital. While he's walking around, Maria's listening to this tape, and this tape has Mary's voice on it and this other doctor. And this doctor says, "Oh, very low platelet count. You lost a lot of blood. Mary, what happened?" And she's like, "My name is Mary Kane. I remember my name is Mary Kane." And then she stops recording. And this is where it gets a little out of hand for me. And I was talking about this a little bit earlier. Maria has some information. She says, "Kane. Oh, I remember that name. There was a man whose last name was Kane who ran this town. There's a bunch of Silent Hill, like, what does she say? Like old Silent Hill crazy types that still worship him as a god since he started this cult." And it's the Silent Hill cult, which is like fine. But it's Mary's dad that started the Silent Hill cult. And she mentions, and with his daughter, they used to, and then she like cuts herself off. "Oh my gosh, that's who you're looking for, isn't it, James?" And James is like, "Yeah, it is." And then the error siren goes off because he starts to have another panic attack. And it goes to like the disturbed, dirty version of the hospital that you see in the game. And they're running through the hospital. There's a lot of bubble nurses, obviously, that chase them through the hospital at this point. There's sort of a slow build-up to seeing them, and they start moving like little mannequins, and they start twitching and stuff. That's actually good. I do like the designs of the monsters in the movie. The body bag monsters, the bubblehead nurses. Pyramid Head I even think looks good. I'll get to the rest after I get there in the sort of rundown of the plot, I guess. So they're running through, and they run down the big hallway with the elevator at the end. Now, in the games, Pyramid Head was chasing you in the scene, and Pyramid Head kills Maria. So I saw them get into the elevator. I'm like, oh my gosh, like Maria's going to die, and she's going to die to this horde of bubble nurses instead of Pyramid Head. Doesn't happen, though. So James fights off all these bubble nurses, is fighting off all these bubble nurses in this hallway while he's trying to get the elevator to work. And one of them gets by, stabs Maria. James kills it. They get the elevator to work, and they start going up. Now, Maria's stabbed in, like, the stomach with a knife. So she's not dead. Dying, but not dead. They get up to a floor in the hospital, and while they're in this floor of the hospital, I'm trying to remember exactly how this goes down. He puts Maria on a hospital bed, puts some bandages on her, and she's like, fine. She's in a stable condition. She says, "Okay, you're going to go look for Mary on this floor. That's fine. But if you don't find her, come back to me, and we're going to leave Silent Hill. Promise?" And James says, "I promise." Which was big, because that is kind of like the Maria ending, in the original, in the Silent Hill 2 game, is you leave Silent Hill with Maria, and it's one of the better thematic endings, I think, because, Maria starts coughing, and you realize that it's going to be a never-ending cycle. But it doesn't matter. When James leaves this hospital room where Maria is, he sees Laura at the end of the hallway and starts chasing her down. Like, "Hey, you need to tell me about Mary. Where did you get that doll?" And she's like, "I don't have a doll. My baby's crying." And she holds up like an actual just like baby. Like it's a Silent Hill baby. So it's like weird and gray. And it's got like this weird head. It almost looks like a bubble nurse head. And it's actually crying. It's like a living thing. I don't know where the hell she got this from. And it's never explained. I don't know why they gave her a baby in this game. But it is what it is. So he chases her through the hospital. And then she locks him in the room with the creature. I thought it was going to be the boss fight where you had the monster jumping down from the ceiling. It's not. I guess it's actually just Mary. And what happens is like Mary, in quotes, because he says, "Oh, Mary." And her nose is bleeding onto his face as he's looking up into the ceiling. And these like 4 hands reach down, and she shoves it down his throat, and he wakes up in the hospital. He wakes up in the hospital. Actual Brookhaven Hospital in Silent Hill, and it's normal. And not normal. I mean, like, there are people working there. Like, that kind of normal. Like, like Silent Hill never happened. And his therapist is there, who called out sort of the wellness check for him, I guess they explain. And James, he's obviously strapped to the bed because they're like, hey, what happened, James? We're trying to help you out. What's going on? The therapist and the nurse start to talk about, like, hey, how James lost his girlfriend. And ever since then, he hasn't been the same. Now, while they're talking about this and while James is in the hospital, he has another flashback. Okay, here we go. Okay, it's gonna take me a lot to get through this part. So James has another flashback. He's in Silent Hill, and he's sort of following Mary around Silent Hill. He's following her around, seeing her meet up with all those people that keep showing up at his house. And so he follows them. He trails them. They go into this alleyway. James finds his way in, realizes that there's nothing in this alleyway. Oh, strange. And then he actually sees steam rising from under a dumpster after looking around for a while, and opens this like secret stone trap door underneath the dumpster. Walks down and hears chanting. So he's walking through the sewers, sees all this chanting, and sees Mary walking up these steps. Like, there's this big altar at the bottom of the sewers for some reason. She's walking up the steps. She's wearing all, like, this gold dress, a gold mask. They make her drink something that's later explained to be, like, either a poison or an alcohol. It's kind of hard to tell. I think she just mentions that it makes her feel weird, but then she mentions that her father's been poisoning her forever, so let's just call it poison. Or a potion maybe, because she just starts profusely bleeding out of every pore in her body, and they are just drinking this shit up. Like, the whole cult, all like 50 people down here. It's a lot more than 20. It looks like half of the Silent Hill town drinking this blood. He's screaming out, "Please help me, Mary! Please help Mary! Oh my gosh!" And James can't do anything because he's behind a door, like behind like a sewer grate where he's watching from. And then there's a little bit more of him in the hospital sort of walking around. Then it cuts to another flashback where he is sitting in the dark in his apartment when Mary gets home. It's the same day. Mary's like, "What are you doing? Why are you sitting in the dark and drinking?" And he goes, "Let me tell you about a story. I was following this girl through town, and it turns out she's actually like the member of a cult, and people were like drinking her fucking blood. Like, what the hell is going on?" And she's like, "I don't know. My father's been doing this since I was a child, and I can't like I don't know what he was doing this for. I don't know why he did this." And James is like pretty decently understanding, And she's like, "Oh, you probably think I'm disgusting. You won't look at me anymore because I'm just so disgusting. You're just like everybody else." And like he never says that. Obviously, he's a little bit freaked out, and I don't even like blame him for seeing that. And she never explained this. It happens apparently all the time. But besides that, like, so he's like, "Look, I'm going to give you a final choice here. Leave Silent Hill with me now, or I'm leaving by myself. You can come with me. I'll take you with me, and we'll live together." And she's like, "Yo, your disgust will never go away, so I can't leave with you." And she's like, "Oh, also, fun fact, when you stopped me at the bus stop earlier in our lives, I was actually going to leave Silent Hill, but I just thought it was fate that you brought me right back here." And so James just grabs his stuff and leaves. And as he's leaving, he like looks back at the apartment windows and he sees all the cult people also looking out the window at him. Whatever, I guess. And he leaves. And sort of a length of time passes that we're really not sure. I'm not sure, like, when they break up to the start of the movie where we see him in the bar, I don't know how much time passed in between those moments. But he goes back, the flashback ends, and then the air siren goes off, and he's back in Silent Hill. And when he's back in Silent Hill, he's at the bed of Marie's feet. He's at Marie's feet, like sitting there with her in the bed that he left her in. And she's like, you didn't find her, so let's leave. And then he kisses Marie, and then he gets up and leaves and goes to the elevator. She follows him. She's trying to get him to stop. He goes all the way down to like this bottom floor. And in the bottom floor, it's like, I think it's supposed to be the labyrinth. There's actually not like the spinning cube at any point in the movie, but he goes to this labyrinth. He's walking through. He sees all these paintings of Mary. And this is where it just loses me, man. When, like, because there's a lot of stuff that I don't like already. I don't like the fact that Mary's a member of a cult. I don't know why we need this characterization. I don't know why Mary needs to be the son or the daughter of a cult leader, and because of that, they're drinking her blood, and then she's like, oh, you never loved me, James, like, or not that you never loved me, but oh, you're disgusted by me, James, so you probably don't love me anymore. I don't know why they decided to do this, but they did. And then this part really freaks me out too, not in a good way. So they're in this labyrinth with all these like paintings of Mary, and you can slowly see them go from a healthy Mary to a Mary that has like intubations, to a Mary that is drowned, to a Mary that is like decomposing and rotting in the back. It's like a skeleton. Then he's like, Maria, you're not even real, and you're just in my way. And then covers his ears, and then Pyramid Head kills Maria. I don't know, like teleports there, kills Maria. And it's revealed, it zooms in on the little crack on Pyramid Head again. And it's actually James Sunderland. Because it is, like, in the games it is him. It's supposed to represent him, like the ideal version of himself. It just doesn't do a great job of showing that off, I don't think. It does a more subtle job of showing that off in the games. When after this scene though, it shows James like off the rails. You know, he's like painting a version of himself, like, because he's back in his apartment. Like, so the timeline's getting all fucked up here now. But he's back in his apartment, and he's painting himself, like a version of himself that was there in Silent Hill when him and Mary broke up. And he's like painting like this red triangle over his own face, because it's obviously supposed to be like Pyramid Head. And then he falls metaphorically into water, I guess. So that all happens. He ends up, because after he falls in this water, he wakes up at Lakeview, and Lakeview's on fire. Like, so we skipped the prison. We skipped, like I said, Eddie's not in the movie anymore, so he's just gone. We skipped that whole thing with the meat locker. Then we are back to Lakeview. So we didn't row across the lake. There's no historical society or site, whatever. There's no labyrinth either, but whatever. There's a serious lack of red squares up to this point. But James walks in, because this is like actually the worst scene in the game in my opinion. So James walks in to Lakeview, and this is really hard for me to like gather my thoughts on how exactly this goes down. Laura's already there, and she's walking around with this little baby or whatever, and she like comes out. Are you ready, James? Like, she comes out behind this couch, and she's got blonde hair now, and she's like, James is like, who are you? What are you? And she's like, what was Mary's full name, James? Oh my god, it fucking kills me. Oh man, it's like switches to like this cheesy flashback of him leaving a flower at a gravesite, and the name is Mary Angela Laura Kane. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? like 2 middle names. But anyways, let's just forget about all that. Laura's gone now. He's walking through this burning Lakeview and sees Angela. And Angela's on the bed, and there's like, she's like, don't touch me, I can't ever leave him. So I think what they did was they made it so Angela was actually Mary, and it was Mary's dad. That was, because Mary's dad like was using her as like this weird ritual thing. So they also made her dad just like, and so like the bed's grabbing her, pulls her down, pulls James with her into this like the flesh room where you fight abstract daddy in the game, like the actual fight. And he just walks up to it and goes, I'm sorry. And then she just spontaneously combusts and blows up. Then he walks down the hallway, leaves the room, like not the flesh room, he's back in the Lakeview now, leaves the room, starts walking down, sees Angela, Mary, everybody else, I guess, walk up the stairs like she does in the game, but this time the stairs lead to the roof of the Lakeview Hotel where her dead body is, Mary's. And we get the scene, because he walks up to the dead body on the bed or whatever, we get the scene where he kills Mary. And this one, man, it just breaks me, because what happened, I don't know when he came back to Mary at this point in the hospital bed, but Mary's sick. So they broke up, obviously. They break up, an amount of time passes, then maybe, like, James gets the letter originally, but for some reason, because he's got this big beard, and he had this beard when he was going crazy doing all those paintings in the last scene, so obviously it's been a while since they broke up. But he's talking to Mary, because it's a full flashback at this point. And so he gets, how do I frame this? He gets a towel because she's sick and she's bleeding from her nose. She's on the bed. And so he grabs his towel, starts wiping away the nosebleed, and she's like, just kill me, James. I'm ready to go. He's like, I can't do that. She's like, come on. Lay it on me. So he does. And he's fucking crying over it. Mary doesn't struggle. There's no breathing. There's no hecticness. She accepts death. And it's really upsetting. I think it was just a total... it ruins the scene. I think it ruins the ambiguity of what makes that scene in Silent Hill 2 so great. Then I'm just going to skip to the end almost here, because that part just drained me, man. They exit it. Mary turns into the moth creature that was supposed to be Marie in the normal game. It's the Marie boss fight, but it's not actually a boss fight. Like, James doesn't fight her. He just like floats up, kisses her, and then puts her normal dead body in his car and drives into Toluca Lake. So it's supposed to be like the ending of the game. But then, this is where they get you. He wakes back up after drowning next to Mary, and he hits her suitcases again. It's right where he swerved at the very beginning of the movie. And then he's like, oh, let's just leave Silent Hill. Because he has all his memories intact, I guess. So they just leave Silent Hill. They never go back. And then the movie ends. What the hell, bro? There's no videotape scene. There's no scene where James has been confused for like the last however long he's been in Silent Hill about what the hell's even going on, and he finally understands himself by watching the videotape. There is none. The only videotapes in the movie were in that original apartment complex, and those videotapes weren't of him killing Mary. They were actually of her in the cult being covered in blood, or them drinking her blood. That's what the videos were. They have nothing to do with James at all. They're all just cult videos. Why? It takes away so much of the movie. And I'm just like, I'm kind of rambling now. I don't think they did a great job with this movie. What I would have done to change it was just scrap everything, and that's just a whole, like, that's really hard for me to say, but just scrap it all. Like, it's not worth it. I I just think it was a dumpster fire. You can't have the best of both worlds with a story like this, with the kind of subtlety and nuance that you have to put into a story. You can't make it like this. And well, that's what we got. So leave me your thoughts in the comments if you watched the movie, sadly, what you thought of it. But I will, I guess I'll see you next time.